Coming up on TechZilla, can my notebook survive our Pelican case torture test? A fix for Comcast data cap, fast and free drive cloning, pocket tablet picks, and quite a bit more. So swap out those batteries and turn the dials up to fun. That's for you, Butler, because TechZilla starts now. This episode of TechZilla is made possible by Thrillist, GameFly. Go to gamefly.com/TechZilla for your free trial membership, and Squarespace. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Welcome to TechZilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family, if you've got a question about tech or the news on Serafina's latest cold, we've got an answer for you.
We're just not going to get it real close from Serafina, who's got her fourth cold this year, so please.
She's sick every time I see her.
Oh my goodness. Send your cold remedies, preferably the really scary folk remedy kinds, to techzilla@revision3.com, and we'll share them all with everyone.
Yes, please. Gosh.
It's official. Apple says no iPhone, no iPad, no Mac hardware coming at the Worldwide Developers Conference in June. So hey, maybe they'll do something silly like concentrate on, OS 10.
Yeah, it's about time. Although I we'll see. Maybe they'll stick something in there anyway. Oh, one more thing. I don't know. They like to throw some prizes out there once in a while.
The ITV.
Yeah. Sprint is officially urging the U.S. government to block the AT&T purchase of T-Mobile, posting, "This transaction will harm consumers and harm competition at a time when this country can least afford it." As the first national carrier to roll out 4G services and handsets, and the carrier that brought simple unlimited pricing to the marketplace, Sprint stands ready to compete in a truly dynamic marketplace. So on behalf of our customers, our industry, and our country, Sprint will fight this attempt by AT&T to undo the progress of the past 25 years and create a new Ma Bell duopoly. Wow, I hate to tell Sprint this, but Ma Bell was a monopoly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Technically?
Mm-hmm.
I applaud Sprint, though, for putting it out there and being like,
and doing
what
justice.
the heck?
They're also doing, it's kind of like, I think that if anything, Sprint's flag waving may be even more overt than AT&T's was.
Yeah.
Because AT&T's like, we're making this terribly difficult purchase for the American people to make them safer. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah.
Sure, okay. Well, what still cracks me up is that the, even as of last week, the T-Mobile commercials against anti-AT&T T-Mobile commercials were still going on. I'm like, oh, they must have done ad buys throughout the rest of the month, and now they can't retract them. They're already out there. It's just kind of funny to see post announcement that they're still having all their competitive
The
advertisements
bashing,
out there.
The slagging.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it's a long way from being finalized. It'll be fun to watch all the mudslinging that'll go on.
Only going to get more interesting, I'm sure.
Or uglier. If you've been fascinated by all the nifty hacking and making stuff that's being built around Microsoft's Kinect, you should check out KinectHacks.net, a collection of what folks are doing around the world with the Kinect, which runs the gamut from stereoscopic real-time dance performance with Kinect and adaptive learning algorithms, to more approachable stuff like Kinect Piano taken to a new level. Props to PennyArcade.com, one of my favorite cartoons, which linked KinectHacks.net in the news section off the ever-so-cruel compare and contrast cartoon getting all Kinect versus Move last week.
We do not mock the Move on the show.
But we do answer questions, like this one from Cassandra in Queens. She writes, "What's up, Veronica and Patrick? Because of Patrick's review on the DLTV a few years ago, I bought the Nokia N800, and since then it's had a few software updates. Well, it had few software updates, but it's basically been ignored by Nokia for newer devices. I still use it to download my video and audio podcasts, and I convert movies to play on it for long trips. When home, it's connected to Wi-Fi, and away from home, I tether it to my Android phone. I can choose to surf the web by tablet or by phone, but I'm tempted by the newer tablets, but I wonder if they'd fit my style of use. I'm not an Apple fan, as I don't like proprietary products. I'm not concerned about screen size. I've been accustomed to the N800. A 3 to 4 inch screen is not a problem. I want something that I can fit in my jacket pocket with ease. The only downfalls with the N800 is no updated flash player, crappy VGA camera that I never use, and no apps. The repository has plenty of developer apps, but nothing like the Android or Amazon market. I know that most would say, just use the Android phone for everything, but I like having it separate to save the phone battery. So what do you think? Should I stick with my N800 since it's only for movies, podcasts, and intermittent surfing? Or is there a tablet out there for me, small and basic? I will seriously consider all the options. Cassandra in Queens, New York.
Yes, well, I'm not usually in the business of telling people to upgrade just for the sake of upgrading. Okay, well, Maybe that's a lie. But it sounds to me like you're ready to move on to some new hotness. According to your email, here's what it sounds like you're looking for. You want a device on the small side, maybe something in the 5 to 7 inch range, even smaller if we can find something. Wi-Fi enabled, obviously, though if you're happy with tethering and don't want to pay for another plan, it doesn't necessarily need to be 3G or 4G compatible. Although, if it had its own data plan, you wouldn't need to have your phone on for tethering and then use more battery life, which you also complained about. You want something that's app-happy. You want something that's non-Apple, ruling out the touch or the iPad. And you want to view podcasts and videos on the go.
It's a shame because the iPod Touch would pretty much deliver everything Cassandra's looking for.
It would, especially in the size factor.
I'm just laying that out there.
But there's still a lot of PMPs out there. Do they still call them PMPs? there's still a lot of devices out there that are smaller form factor.
Mobile.
Personal media player.
Thank you.
Yeah. One thing that I was thinking of was the Dell Streak, which we've shown on Texilla a couple of times before. Seems to be a good fit right off the bat. There's the 5-inch and the 7-inch varieties. They all have the features you need, including the wide range of Android apps in the marketplace. The 7-inch Galaxy Tab is also an option, or you could buy someone's old Android phone and not reactivate the phone service and just use it as a Wi-Fi device. Then you'd be carrying around 2 Android phones, which might be kind of weird.
Well, it's like a backup.
Yeah. And then you could load all your media and all your content on that device, save your battery life on your other Android phone. There's a lot on eBay that you could probably get for pretty cheap, actually, yeah. So did you have any suggestions or anything off the top of your head?
I was thinking actually about the Dell Streak, and I kept thinking I know you're going to do the proprietary, but boy, this is really an iPad Touch kind of thing.
It would be nice, it would be. But if she's anti-Apple, that's the way she wants to be. We can't argue with that at all. There's still players by Cowan and other manufacturers of like Arcos, for example, that still make devices. They're moving more into the tablet range increasingly.
Hopefully Arcos has gotten better with the interfaces than they were in the past.
I always liked the Arcos interface.
Yeah, I just don't envision them doing a web browser that did make me want to beat myself in the head with something heavy.
Yeah. But there's a lot of Android devices out there.
Great media player, though.
The size thing, I think, is the thing that you're most concerned about and which will give you the most trouble finding in that
Because everybody
small
wants a 10-inch
size.
tablet. Everybody wants a gigantic Android device.
And people keep complaining when they make 5-inch devices, like,
it's
too big for a phone and too small for a tablet. But it sounds like it might be okay for you.
Check them out. We'll have links to all that stuff in the show notes. We're having Lloyd Case back on the show in a couple weeks. We want you to send him your questions, or actually send us your questions about graphics cards, PC gaming, and of course PC tweaking. Send them to Techzilla at revision3.com with Lloyd Case in the subject line. And by the way, do us a favor, ask him to bring pictures of his LAN party room.
Oh,
it's amazing.
He has a whole room, like a man cave LAN party room.
Like a gigantic room in his house.
That's awesome.
It's epic.
That's pretty cool. Well, it's time now to thank one of our sponsors, Thrillist. You know that one friend who always hooks you up with cool new bands before anyone else has even heard of them? Well, Thrillist is like that, but for cool new stuff to do in your city. Thrillist is a free daily email that sifts through the crap to find the best new bars, restaurants, events, and services. Whatever it is, they promise it won't suck. Wouldn't you want to know about a restaurant with cheeseburger spring rolls, or an underground tequila library, or a Star Wars burlesque show? And Thrillist even has a national version that'll hook you up with scoops on hot new gadgets, gear, and funny sites across the web. Oh, and did we mention that all this info is free? Hit up Thrillist.com/Texilla and you'll get started getting Thrillist sweet, sweet knowledge right away. A lot of you are upgrading to bigger hard drives and SSDs because we've gotten a ton of emails and tweets like this one from Martin in Brunswick, Ohio. Hey guys, I'm considering replacing the tiny 200 gigabyte hard drive. I love that they're tiny.
They're tiny.
Now that's tiny. That's pretty awesome. Hard drive in my notebook was something a little more substantial. The problem is I have no idea how to do this. The physical replacement is relatively straightforward thanks to sites like iFixit.com, but I don't know how to get my stuff from the old drive to the new one. I'm not exactly savvy when it comes to replacing things on the inside, so any pointers are extremely welcome. Suggestions on hard drives, best prep practices, awesomest how-tos, etc. Thanks, Oodles, Martin. Most of this applies to PCs, though Martin has an early 2008 MacBook Pro. My able assistant Patrick has a Phillips screwdriver and a 2.5-inch drive adapter. That's all the hardware you'll need to swap a drive on most computers. And if you're not cloning your old hard drive, as in putting a fresh install of OS and apps on your new drive, which we highly recommend, by the way, you won't even need a drive adapter. Yeah. That said, if you want to get your clone on like Martin, plug your new drive into a USB drive adapter. Are you going to motion as I go, or are you just gonna? Okay. Plug your new drive into a USB drive adapter, or pop it inside a 2.5-inch drive case and plug it into your notebook. Then get yourself to the internet and get ready to download. Got it?
Got it.
Ready to download?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because I know there was like a flurry of tweets last week, and I gotta say, if there's a couple easy ways. You can either spend like 15 bucks for a USB SATA drive adapter, or just buy an external case. We keep finding these Nexstar ones at our local computer store for like 15 bucks, and then just plug your drive into the case. It's pretty painful. I mean, boom, you're done. You now have a drive adapter, and then you can use your old drive for backup, assuming you're not replacing it because it's dead. But I like Macrium Free or Clonezilla for PC, Super Duper. Carbon Copy Cloner is really nice. It's free, does a really good job cloning, which in case you don't know what cloning is, it's a bit-for-bit copy of all the data off of a hard drive into a big file or onto another hard drive. Most of these tools all have the same basic features. Download, launch Carbon Copy Cloner, select the drive you want to copy from the drop-down menu under Source Disk. Then you can also choose the image app to an IMG disk image format to keep as an archival backup. You can put that on your big server in the corner of the house or up on the internet. Under Target Disk on the right, select the new drive you want to copy everything over to. Under Cloning Options, select Backup Everything and click Clone. In Windows, it's pretty much the same thing. Use something like Macrium Reflect or Paragon Backup and Recover, the free edition. Cronus, I think, still has a 30-day free trial. Word of warning, you'll need to have your Windows install disk handy. You might be presented with a corrupt boot manager after the process when you boot from it. You will need to boot. If you do, you'll actually need to boot from the Windows disk to repair it. Once you're done cloning the drive, you can swap in the new drive.
Yes, and here's where the screwdriver part comes in.
It's, basically the nice thing about most of the modern most of the modern notebooks out there the last few years, they make it pretty easy to replace the memory and the hard drive. In the case of this HP notebook, I've got to remove the memory cover, which would help a lot if I use the right size Phillips screwdriver extension.
I think people get a little more intimidated when it comes to replacing drives and things on laptops as opposed to, tower like PC cases and that kind of thing.
Well, they're so expensive for the amount of hard, it's this little box, it costs you a ton of money. Nobody wants to replace it. And what's always really scary is they always make things snap together in ways that feel like they're breaking when you're pulling them apart.
Snap off in a bad way, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always really gentle, but there's always that moment where you just kind of, you look for the fourth time to make sure there aren't any screws or tabs or slots that you miss, and then you kind of have to yank it up. So.
And what would be the situation for most people in terms of warranties and whether or not they're voiding their warranties by switching out hard drives or adding memory, that kind of thing?
In most cases, you should not be violating your drive. Usually, on most computers, usually they put a sticker over it that says you're going to violate your warranty if you open up this cover. I always would suggest, don't trust us. Call the people who sold you the notebook, or check their website, or check your warranty paper.
I will say that when I switched the hard drive out of my MacBook Pro, it didn't void the warranty. And I was actually, when the MacBook Pro started dying, I brought it back to the Apple Store, and when all they said was go back and put your old hard drive back into the laptop so we can look at the whole thing together and then figure out what the problem is. But it wasn't an issue. They still covered everything.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I also will point out, before anybody emails, well, you're Veronica Belmont, of course I took care of you, or you're Patrick Norton, of course I took care of you. Actually, most of the time, whether it's a Genius Bar or somebody at the other end of 1-800 Dell, they don't know who we are, and they don't really care.
No, they certainly do not care.
A lot of cases, the drives, almost always these days, the drive will have some kind of tray that they get installed in. There's usually going to be 4 screws. Usually Phillips, occasionally Torx that hold it into that tray. And the nice thing about SATA drives versus the old IDE drives is they tend to be somewhat easier to assemble. So in this case,
there she is.
Yeah, we slide it out of the tray, and then there's this crazy adapter here that we're going to slide this off of, and now you would simply reverse the installation. This is the old drive. This is our new hotness, to borrow Veronica's phrase.
And don't lose your screws.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on your screws.
Putting down a strip of blue masking tape, like a loop of blue masking tape, and then putting the screws on each of those is probably a really good idea if your house looks anything like mine. And as much as I know you all would like to watch me reassemble this, backwards at the moment, so I'll flip this over so it'll go assembled correctly.
You guys get the idea from here.
Yeah, basically just watch the video in reverse and you'll get it all there. So.
All right, well, it's time now to thank one of our sponsors, GameFly. GameFly is the largest online video game rental service and offers you a choice of over 7,000 new and classic titles across all consoles and handhelds. With plans starting at just $15.95 a month, GameFly members can rent 1 to 4 games at a time and keep them for as long as they like. There are no late fees, no due dates, and shipping is always free. Once you're done playing a game, send it back and GameFly will send you the next available game on your list. If you really like the game you're playing, just click Keep It on the GameFly website and the game is yours at a discounted price. GameFly will even mail you the case and manuals free of charge. Texilla fans get a 15-day free trial when they go to www.gamefly.com/Texilla. Looks like it's time for another website we just can't get enough of. A website that we just can't stay away from because it's too useful, too funny, or just too darn irresistible. This week's pick, Foursquare Playground. If you're still checking into Foursquare and you're not entirely sure why it's still fun or interesting to do so, yeah, that's me right about now. Check out Foursquare Playground. This neat little HTML5 app was built to show a neighborhood representation of your Foursquare life, including businesses near you, who checked in nearby, and where there are special deals. This app was really built to showcase HTML5 working in Internet Explorer 9, and it also uses JavaScript and CSS to bring the whole thing together. I had no issue using it in Chrome either, of course, but it's a cute little demo of the tech working. Click into a location to see who's running around inside and to get a little more info about that place. You can see your total number of check-ins, the total number of individuals who have checked in there, and how many people are there now that are using Foursquare, of course. You can even click on the golden chest to see the tips folks have left there, and click on the picture frame to see who the mayor is. It would be neat if there was a way to browse photos taken there as well, but I haven't found that option yet. So if you're tired of the same old check-ins, take a fun look at the world around you through the eyes of Foursquare Playground today. Pelican sent us in a 1510 laptop overnight case, and we asked you guys for ideas. The scariest email so far came from Keenan. As a private pilot, I've had friends that I've taken flying ask if they could drop something out of the airplane. So I looked it up and asked a flight instructor, and there is no reason why you couldn't drop the Pelican case out of an airplane. FAR, Federal Aviation Regulation, Section 91.15 states, dropping objects. No pilot in command of a civil aircraft may allow any object to be dropped from that aircraft in flight that creates a hazard to persons or property. However, this section does not prohibit the dropping of any object if reasonable precautions are taken to avoid injury or damage to persons or property. Okay, so just find a pilot and place to drop it and have fun. Keenan, Moses Lake, Washington.
I gotta say, Keenan.
That is valuable information.
Does not prohibit the dropping of any object never sounded so good. Although I'm not really actually sure we know anybody crazy enough to let us in their plane with the Pelican case now.
I've logged a few hours.
Yes, I have a child, and I'm not sure if my life insurance covers. She had a few hours.
I have a few hours under my belt in the air.
This is how we become.
I do!
I do not want to get to the top of Dig and Reddit as an entrant in the Darwin Awards for that year.
You don't trust me to fly?
How many hours do you have behind?
Like 2.
2?
Maybe. He trusts me to Roger just said, would he trust me to drive you? I am a good driver.
And you can do
and
amazing things with arithmetic.
Like crazy. Arithmetic. What?
It's a Rain Man reference. Let's just roll the film on what we have done to the case so far. And yes, we backed up the drive in my notebook before we started torturing the Pelican case. Okay, so nobody would know where the plane's going to let us go anywhere near the inside of the plane with the case, so we got something like this instead. No traffic? Good. Serafina, traffic clear? Apparently we need 2 traffic watchers. All right, here's the thing. This is the 1510 LOC laptop overnight case, and the regular 1510 does not have the laptop bag and the fancy side panel for your power cord, your modem, stuff like that. The laptop strap, I like the fact that it straps it into the top, which is pretty solid, but there's definite limitations on the size of a laptop. This is a 15-inch HP, and it's stretching this thing to the max. So if you got a 17-inch notebook, it's not going to fit on this side of the case. If you're going for pure gear, I would say go for the regular carry-on case, which is the same internal dimensions but has pick and pull foam. And in either case, remember that you're trading off a lot of the interior for the overmolding. Partially is the big ribs on the side, and partially, of course, is they've got to fit all of the wheels and the other stuff on the interior. So, and the two big glorious handles, which we just finally managed to mark one up on. So the regular Pelican 1510 case with foam is $134.22 on Amazon. The laptop overnight case with the built-in pack for the laptop is $219 on Amazon. Those are both considerably discounted off the list price. Dear Mr. Norton, please, it would please me and you, I imagine, greatly if one of your torture tests of the 1510 Pelican case was as follows. Place a large Comcast decal on the case and beat it to pieces with a sledgehammer. That is all, Gibram. Two things, Gibram. One, I don't have access to a Comcast sticker. And two, there is no way that you're going to break this thing with a sledgehammer. Of course, you might dent the ceiling enough to damage the notebook, but that's an entirely different thought. Oh, broke a rib. So that took like, what, 9 hits from an 8-pound sledgehammer? Latches still work, hinge is still perfect. Whoop, we may have finally hurt the notebook on that one. It's a little bit of, oh! So it's probably not designed for a 30-foot hop and then being beaten to death with a sledgehammer. Well, good thing I used my notebook and not one of Work's notebooks. I will say, to the Pelican case's credit, nobody in their right mind designs anything to withstand being beaten with a sledgehammer. And two, this is the carry-on case with the idea that you're going to carry it on the plane with you. Although, quite frankly, I think even the gnarliest airport handlers in the world would have some effort to actually damage this thing with the 15 miles an hour and sliding off the luggage cart. Back to you in the studio.
Time now to thank one of our sponsors, Squarespace. Looking to create a blog, personal portfolio, or just a website? No matter what level of coding experience you have, Squarespace can provide the tools needed to create a high-end, sophisticated website that is totally your own. Plus, with 24/7 user support, any questions or issues you might have can be handled right away. Now, we know a ton of you guys have signed up and built sites already, so Squarespace is asking you to send in your questions and tips about Squarespace. Email your questions or tips, squarespace@revision3.com, for a chance to have your question answered or tips shown off in a future episode of Techzilla. And if you don't already have a Squarespace site, head over to www.squarespace.com/Techzilla to get a 2-week free trial and learn more. Thanks again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's episode. Josh from technothusiasts.com and The Warm wrote in to say, Allie can get around the cap. Remember Allie, his roommates, and the 250 gigabyte Comcast data cap? To quote The Warm, after exceeding the cap 2 years ago, I switched to Comcast business class account. Best decision ever. It cost me $59.95 a month, period, no extra fees or taxes. I have unlimited usage at 12 megabits per second down, 2 megabits per second up. By the way, I've been a fan since the screensavers on Tech TV, The Warm.
I have to see if this is available where
The Comcast business, it is, I have it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have the business class
I
account.
need never fear my wife's Glee binges
And
again.
why I didn't forget of why I didn't, I don't think I knew that it didn't have a bandwidth cap.
Maybe it does.
Maybe it does.
We must go home and check.
I will. I'm pretty sure that's what we have. We have like the second tier up from normal. Or is it the one tier down from top?
Well, I don't have business class. I've got a consumer
I'll have
class.
to ask Ryan. He got the internet set up at home, and I just kind of, whatever. Do what you
It
want.
works.
It works.
Great.
That's fine. Whatever.
Christopher writes in, Dear Techzilla, my old computer used to accumulate a good amount of dust over time. Since replacing my old tower with an Antec 300, the internals are much cleaner overall due to the case's built-in air filter. Now that I've saved up enough money to begin building my next budget gaming rig, I was wondering if there was a way to add this design to my future undecided video card. Ideally, I would like to simply remove the filter, clean it, and then reinsert it. Thanks, love the show, Christopher.
Maybe we're not as familiar with the filter on that case as we thought, but if all the air entering the case is filtered, then you shouldn't need to put a filter on the video card. It'd be kind of like putting an air filter on every cylinder of the car in addition to the main air filter. It's kind of like overkill, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a much better idea to keep the air, the fuzz, the dust, the cat dander, the dog fur out of the case.
Oh my God, I don't even want to look at my gaming rig right now. I've discovered that Little Jeans, when he's scared, the place he goes hides is right behind right behind in the space between the PC and the wall.
It's warm and it makes noise, just like my cat mommy did.
I don't even want to look. Yeah.
Look, I'm with Roddick on this one. If you do decide to go all belt and suspenders and have a filter on your case and a filter on your card, and you can't say shave the house cat or in my case, the fur-generating dog, since that seems to be 90% of what she does. I play around with using a little bit of foam filter or pantyhose over the inlet on the GPU cooler. I don't think anybody makes an actual dedicated GPU cooler with a filter built in. I haven't seen one. If you have, email us techzilla@revision3.com. Just make sure you don't block too much airflow into your graphics card, and check it regularly to make sure it doesn't clog, because there's something that's really sad about killing your GPU because you put a filter on it and the filter got clogged with, say, cat dander. I'm actually now thinking about sealing up my case. I've got an NTEC 9000 with the gigantic fan on the top. Now I want to put a filter over the fan on the top, so there's like a single filtered inlet for all air to keep the dog out of the case, or more accurately, the dog's fur.
I just bought a new Dirt Devil, or it's a Black & Decker one. Can I suck the dust out of that?
Yes, but be really, really, really careful, because I know people who have used the vacuum to clean dust off their motherboard and popped the little tiny surface mount components off the motherboard. It's more of an issue if you've got like the big steel hose on the vacuum and you're like, roar! And then there's like a little oh wait, you're not actually going to hear it, your system's just not going to boot. Then you're going to look around, you're going to see a little spot where the resistor or capacitor.
Maybe I won't do that.
Just
dusting, regular dusting.
Feather dusters.
Yeah, feather duster.
Rick in Minnesota says, thanks to your viewers and you guys for your answers to my iPad dilemma. Patrick was right that I don't want to jailbreak my iPad, although that seems to be the shortest route to the built-in file system. So far, I still have about 32 gigabytes of the iPad unused, but now I have a few more tricks to try.
Yes, I really like the idea of importing a huge file directory tree into Goodreader using a zip file. I've been using Goodreader for a while, but I didn't dig deep enough into the documentation to read about zip files.
I've been there.
Me too. I've used Dropbox a lot, but I don't love it enough to exceed the 2 gigabyte limit and pay a monthly fee. I've also discovered a terrific ebook document file management application for my desktop called Calibre. It maintains all the metadata like authors, titles, keywords, and such, and it will upload to iPads and other e-readers.
Cool.
I no longer have to manually sort things into folders by author when I import into iBooks. Calibre provides corrected and updated information, which iBooks happily uses in its sorting or searching. Love the show. Thanks again, Rick in Minnesota. Yes, even colder than Connecticut. There's a lot of places colder than Connecticut.
Minnesota's definitely high on that list.
Like Alaska, for example.
Montana.
And
Saskatchewan.
Detroit. I was in Detroit and it was freezing.
Ooh.
That was very cold.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Did you bring your big puffy down coat?
I'm going to Chicago at the end of the week. I wonder if it'll be cold then still.
Maybe you should buy a big puffy down coat.
Maybe we should. Yes.
Do you know what makes this show so awesome? Wow, I feel egotistical now. You do! So send us your questions and comments to techzilla@revision3.com, because we can't do the show without you.
No, and as always, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/techzilla. Plus, you can also reach us on Twitter at Techzilla, at Patrick Norton, at Veronica, at Robert Heron. Oh, and by the way, we do have a Play for Japan listing up.
Ooh.
It's live right now on the site. It'll have been up for a couple of days by the time you guys see this show.
Watch a studio taping.
Watch the studio taping, have lunch with us, get a big swag bag full of Revision 3 and Techzilla stuff.
Like a 19th century star?
That's creepy, and no. We'll autograph stuff if you want us to. We don't have to.
We got some
but if you
Revision
want
3
that kind of
swag
stuff,
lined up for you. Hopefully it'll be the right size.
Yeah, so the only thing you need to do is win the auction and then find your way to San Francisco, and then we'll hang out. You get to sit in on the studio and watch the show. We'll give you a tour. It'll be awesome.
I have to be very clear so I'm not beaten by our CEO, Jim Lauterbach. We cannot pay to fly you out here.
Or put you up.
I'm sorry.
But it's totally awesome to come visit us, right? And it's for a good cause. It's for Play for Japan, which I mentioned on last week's show, and also the American Red Cross benefiting the earthquake victims in Japan. So please come visit, help us out, and donate money for a good cause.
Playforjapan.org. That's the one.
So definitely check it out, and thank you guys so much for watching Techzilla. We can't wait to meet whoever wins.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Veronica Belmont.
Until next time, you've been watching Techzilla. Just for you. What should we take them?
Oh, yeah.
We're buying lunch. We'll pay for the lunch, though. We can't pay for the flight. We can't pay for a hotel, but we will buy you lunch.
Get you some chicken and waffles.
Ooh, we can go to the one in Oakland. It's awesome.
That's kind of far.
We're not leaving people in Bayview, Roger. You can't hear Roger. Roger's saying horrible things. Yes. Send them to the Tenderloin at midnight.